everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Schulte Horvath, reporting from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Thank you for joining us this week. We hope you're staying safe and continuing to do your part during these interesting times. It's been a crazy time in the world of sports, and I'm glad to have some of my favorite people joining me this week to talk about that. Let's start up north in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, with Zarita Sese.
Hey, Zolty, my Raptors live another day. Whew.
In Las Vegas, Nevada, we have Aljamain Santos.
What's up, everybody? It's always great to be here with you guys.
In the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., we have Ken Cruz.
Hey guys, so just FYI, if I yell out of nowhere, it's because LeBron made a crazy play. Lakers are playing right now.
Last but not least, from Alexandria, Virginia, we have E.J. Gonzalez.
Yes, 4 weeks in a row, man, and I love it every single time. I'm a part of the family now, right, guys?
I was going to say, I think it's safe to say you're here to stay.
After 8 weeks, EJ, you're halfway there.
No, you got to post,
Hey,
and then you're part of the family.
Okay.
So before we continue, we just want to remind you that our panelists are just a group of friends who love sports, and we just want to share our love and our thoughts with you, our viewers. Before we jump into the discussion, here are some updates that have been circulating the sports world this week. We'll start off with a quick update from the NFL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are continuing to build around legendary quarterback Tom Brady. They first started by bringing Rob Gronkowski out of retirement. Then they drafted a decent running back in the third round. They already started with two solid receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and now they add another weapon to that list with the beast from the Southeast, Leonard Fournette. Fournette, who was released by the Jaguars just a couple of days prior, took no time in making his decision on where to sign and is set to earn $3.5 million on his one-year deal. I think it's safe to say the Bucs are coming into the new season with a Super Bowl or bust type of attitude. The 2020 NFL season is set to kick off next Thursday, September 10th. It's coming up pretty quick here. Next up, we have a soccer update from Ken Cruz.
Jolte, before I go into this, I want to ask, what are the percentages that the Bucs are winning in Super Bowl this year?
If they keep adding players like Fournette and bringing back Gronkowski, it's.
How about Adrian Peterson, maybe? Just kidding.
Hey, he was just released today, but I think AP is coming back to the Vikings to retire a Viking. That's my.
Well, I mean, maybe you should give him a message on Instagram to pitch it. It might be a good deal. But as far as the news, it's been a messy couple of weeks for Lionel Messi and Barcelona. Last week, the 33-year-old Messi made global headlines when he announced he intended to leave the Catalan club he's spent 20 years with on a free transfer. However, Barcelona refused to recognize the break in his contract as they claimed the moment for using it has passed in June, and so a stalemate began in which the Argentine national tried to find a way out. However, Messi has accepted he must stay to avoid dragging his beloved club to court, but only after experiencing a desperately sad couple of weeks. In an interview, Messi said, quote, "When I communicated my wish to leave to my wife and children, it was brutal drama. The whole family began crying. My children did not want to leave Barcelona, nor did they want to change schools. But I looked further afield, and I want to compete at the highest level, win titles, compete in the Champions League. You can win or lose in it because it is very difficult, but you have to compete." Messi, end quote. But Messi could continue, quote, "I thought and was sure that I was free to leave. The president always said that at the end of the season I could decide if I stayed or not. Now they claim the fact that I did not say it before June 10th. When it turns out that on June 10th, we were competing for the Liga in the middle of this awful coronavirus, and the disease altered the season. And this is the reason why I'm going to continue in the club. Now, I'm going to continue in the club because the president told me that the only way to leave was to pay the 700 million euros clause, and that this is impossible," end quote. There was only one way out if Messi was to leave. taking Barcelona to court, but the 6-time Ballon d'Or winner refuses to take that route and so will remain with the club for another 10 months. Back to you, Schulte.
Wow, that sounds like an insane story, Ken.
I mean,
Thanks for that. Lastly, for an update on some recent NBA awards, here's EJ Gonzalez.
Thanks, Goldie. The NBA announced this season's winners of the Sixth Man of the Year and Rookie of the Year awards. Montrezl Harrell of the Los Angeles Clippers received the honors of Sixth Man of the Year, beating out Oklahoma City's Dennis Schroeder and fellow teammate Lou Williams, who has won this award the last 2 seasons. Clippers players have now won this award for 3 straight years and 4 out of the last 5 when Jamal Crawford was awarded this recognition back in 2016. Harrell played 63 games during the regular season where he averaged 18.6 points, 7.1 rebounds, 1.7 assists, and 1.1 blocks per game in just about 28 minutes. Without a doubt, Montrezl Harrell's energy ignites the LA Clippers, and his output on both ends of the floor allowed him to edge out this year's runner-up, Dennis Schroeder. And John Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies was named this season's NBA Rookie of the Year. Before the pandemic, Morant was leading all rookies in scoring at nearly 18 points per game and in assists at almost 7 per game. He also led all rookies in field goal percentage, where he was averaging nearly 50% shooting from the floor. He also proved his dominance in the fourth quarter, where he ranked 6th in points for all NBA players, not just rookies, and had the highest fourth quarter field goal percentage of the entire NBA at 55.9%. Morant also had the most double-doubles for rookies, tallying 11 total, and was the only rookie to record a triple-double this year. Morant received an almost unanimous vote for the award, obtaining 99 out of the 100 first-place votes. Obviously, one had to go to, I guess, Zion Williamson, but the runner-ups for Rookie of the Year were Kendrick Nunn of the Miami Heat, who finished second, and Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans, who finished third. So it's easy to say that these 3 names alone ensures that the NBA's future will be filled with great talent and exciting basketball. Back to you, Zolti.
Thanks, EJ. I also heard that John Morant wants to know who the one person was who didn't vote for him. Anyway, now that you're caught up, that's right. Now that you're caught up on some news that happened in sports world this past week, don't go anywhere, because after the break, our panel will discuss the first and second rounds of the NBA playoffs. We'll be right back.
Sa September 5, Sabado at September 6, Linggo, alas 12 ng tanghali at alas 9 ng gabi ay muli nating mapapanood ang mas pinalawak at mas pinalaking talent competition on Philippine television and online. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2! Muling samahan ang ating mga hurado na humanap ng mga Pilipinong may natatanging galing sa pagkanta at pagsayaw. Abangan ang kanilang performances na magpapayanig at magbibigay ng kulay sa ating TNG stage. Dito lang yan sa Tagisan ng Galing Part 2. Dito lang sa Net 25. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is co-presented by Cooper, an expert in air conditioning and electromechanical, also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Our sponsors, BDO, we find ways. JRC Industrial Sales, RS Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation, Robus Builders, Chris Raff Enterprises, Victory Carpentry, DOP Asiatic Pest Control Services, and AUB Aspire for the Future. In partnership with New Era University ETF, Expanded Tertiary Education, Equivalency and Accreditation Program. Embrace Cafe, we embrace differently abled persons.
Hello there, I'm Alfred, and I'm a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, batch of 2008 in New Era University. I'm currently working as an operations analyst in Autodesk.
Hi, I'm Earl Escanio, and I graduated with Bachelor of Science major in Computer Science in 2010. I am a consultant at Trinity Consulting, LLC.
Hi, I'm Ivy Macapagal, Bachelor's of Computer Science graduate, year 2010. I'm currently working as a cybersecurity analyst in one of the largest telcos here in New Zealand, Coast Park, NZ.
I'm Jofran David Riego, a BS Computer Science graduate here in 15. As a legal analyst, I am tasked to read US cases, specifically civil torts cases.
I am Melanie Rico Hermosity, a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science graduate, year 2006.
I'm currently a software quality assurance engineer at FBI Systems here in Maryland, United States.
Hi, I'm Renzo Cruz. I'm a graduate of BS Computer Science, year 2012. I'm currently working abroad, and I'm working as a senior cybersecurity consultant who specializes in digital forensics and incident response. And I am part of a national security in one of the countries here in the Middle East.
I am inviting everyone to study at New Era University. To legit, to great.
Be brilliant in the new era.
Study now at New Era University. Excellence,
Discipline,
Service to humanity.
Welcome back to EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Schulte Horvath, broadcasting from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Round one of the NBA playoffs is in the books, and there is a ton to talk about. The East ended as most thought it would. The only minor surprise was the fifth-seeded Heat sweeping the fourth-seeded Pacers. The West got a little crazy, with the Nuggets and Jazz and the Rockets and Thunder both going to a Game 7, with both of those games only being decided by a couple of points. With that, I want to know what everyone's biggest takeaway and biggest surprise from the first round was. Aljamain, let's start with you.
My biggest surprise for this first round was that OKC was able to take it that far against the Rockets. A lot of people counted the Thunder out, but Chris Paul really put it all together. I feel like he didn't have as many stars as he's had in the past, like back when he was with the Clippers. But he did have leadership on the court, and I felt like the Thunder is going to have a great future. One of the biggest disappointments was the Pacers getting swept. You had what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. TJ Warren.
TJ Warren, yeah.
Yeah, Warren. You get a guy who's scoring 50-something points, 40 points, 30 points on any given night in the bubble, and all of a sudden it comes down to the playoffs when it really counts, and it's just like, where'd he go? He ghosted, And I was expecting that Miami and Indiana was going to butt heads a little bit more, probably take it to Game 6 at least, because I like the drama between T.J. Warren and Jimmy Butler, but I didn't get it. So, but yeah, definitely a huge disappointment for me to see T.J. Warren just kind of fall off the face of the earth there.
EJ, so Amin brought up the Rockets and Thunder.
Right.
Westbrook was traded for Chris Paul along with 4 draft picks. With the Thunder bringing it all the way to Game 7 and it being so close, do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's paid off, or is it too early to tell?
Well, I think no matter what, that OKC definitely has had a really good run. Even with the dismissal of Russell Westbrook, I want to commend OKC for the season they had. Like Amin said, this is a team that analysts said that they had a near 0% chance of even making it to the playoffs, and the entire season was them dedicating to prove everyone wrong. I mean, these guys played great. They were the most clutch team in the NBA, led by Chris Paul, the most clutch scorer in the NBA this season. And I mean, these guys were able to bring the Houston Rockets, to Game 7, and was decided by literally the final possession. So, I mean, I give props to Chris Paul, Billy Donovan, and Sam Presti. He continues to put together teams who have been able to contend in the Western Conference. And obviously, that's the more difficult conference between the two. And year after year, no matter who's on that roster, Oklahoma seems to be getting it right. So no matter what Oklahoma does, I think it's a win for them, especially with the way that they played this season.
So were there any surprises for you in round one?
Well, for me, I think the more surprising one was Utah and Denver. I mean, that Game 7 also came to one final possession. Could have gone either way. And I feel bad, honestly, for the Jazz and Donovan Mitchell. I mean, this team was under a microscope since Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID-19. During the break, we heard so much news saying that the team's relationship was broken, it was unsalvageable. But they came out and played extremely well against the Denver Nuggets. Granted, they did let a 3-1 lead slip from them, but I mean, you could see that the team played well together, and it was under the leadership of Mitchell and Gobert. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know how well they would have matched up against the Clippers, though. The Jazz, I definitely think Denver had the better matchup. But then again, they got beat really bad in Game 1. So, I mean, I think it just goes to show you that I think it's an LA versus LA, like it was predestined even before the season began.
Zarita, your Raptors swept. It was almost no contest. What are your thoughts on round one? Not only for the Raptors, but just, overall round one for the East. Super easy for some of those teams.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from round one is there's a clear distinction between the tiers in the NBA, and we see that in the East when it was all 3 sweeps. Not so much in the West where 2 series did go Game 7, but I think the fact that the series were going only Game 5, Game 6, of course the Game 7s, but there's a clear distinction, and now in round 2 we're seeing more competition. But another thing that's surprising to me is the amount of flagrant 1 calls that we're getting. It's almost as if there's like a quota of like at least 1 per game, and I've become very good at calling what a flagrant will be. Like an ounce of excessive contact is enough for them to call it a flagrant 1. So I think the tight whistle for me is actually pretty surprising. And I think there's a stat of like in the regular setting, it was like 42 calls per game, and it went up to like 52. So those are the 2 things that I would say is actually pretty surprising to come out of round 1.
Do you think the replay of the fouls has something to do with that, though?
I think so, but I think players are getting empowered to beg for those replays because we see it no matter what it is, whether they're questioning who gets the foul, whether it was even a foul at all. I think players are starting to feel emboldened to beg for those and then influence their coaches to then call for those replays.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, if you look back at the last game with OKC and Houston, it seemed like every single possession down the stretch, once the ball went out of bounds, come on,
yeah,
bring it back, every single time.
And I think it happened with the Lakers right now, where 80, a minute into it, got called for a foul, and he's already doing this fingers. Like it's just they feel emboldened.
Well, speaking of the Lakers, Ken, I think a lot of us picked Portland to take out the Lakers in round 1. The Lakers, they kind of flipped a switch when it came to the playoffs because they were playing horrible in the regular season bubble. And then you got playoff bubble Lakers, and they're just taking off. What do you think?
My man, it's called playoff LeBron. There's levels to this, as Zarita said, right? I mean, rumors are it was overblown, obviously. Like, I mean, you could tell that it was going to be one of those series that could either go one way or the other, just by how Portland was coming into the series, like with a bunch of close games, like actually like beating off Memphis for that 8th seed. And then, they look good, they're shooting good, but then you realize, all right, is there a real defense actually guarding these guys? And the Lakers, after, getting punched on the mouth in game 1, losing that, they made amazing adjustments against the Blazers, where they were able to, trap and double team Damian before he got injured, obviously, so that he got, minimal touches and or at least made him uncomfortable so he couldn't just shoot it at the logo like he was doing, Logo Lillard. And so, they clamped up, especially when you have, LeBron playing hardcore defense, the rest of your team's going to follow. And so it was amazing to see the Lakers, even though their shooting was and still is, very up and down, their defense was at 100 each time. And you can tell that was the case because, they held these Nuggets teams to nothing. On a side note, one thing I want to mention, especially in the first round, is apparent that the future of the NBA is here. These legendary performances from guys like, Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum. These guys all showed up in the first round, and it was amazing to see greatness unfold, right? So, some numbers, right? Mitchell averaged 36.3 points in that matchup versus the Nuggets, versus Murray, who averaged 29.1. Doncic, crazy stat line, 31 points per game, 9.8 rebounds per game, 8.7 assists per game. And this was, mostly without Kristaps Porzingis. The dude did it by himself. He had that insane game winner versus the Clippers without KP. And that was amazing to see. I remember yelling at the top of my lungs, when that happened. And then lastly, Tatum, he averaged 25.4 points, 9.3 rebounds per game. The guy just looks like a bona fide star already. He's so composed. He looks like he's been in the league for 15 years. He knows his spots, and it's crazy to see. I just wish that the Lakers picked him up instead of Lonzo. But I mean, we are where we are, and it's great to see that the league is headed in the right direction, right? I mean, it's a star-driven league. The stars make the league, and you see that this league is going to, continue to grow, and I love it. I mean, that was my takeaway, and also my pleasant surprise for the first round.
So we'll bring this back up to the top to Amin, but I mean, anyone can join in, can speak their mind on this. You mentioned, Ken, the Porzingis, missing. Well, he missed 3 games, and he was ejected in the third quarter of game 1. Amin, do you think if Porzingis plays that game and the entire team is not on Luka's back, do you think they do better against the Clippers? Do they beat the Clippers?
Kristaps Porzingis, the unicorn, he really adds a lot of depth onto the court for the Mavericks. You got a shooting big man. You got a guy that you can throw the lob to. It does definitely help Luka offensively and defensively as well. But if KP is on the court and he has one of his days where he's just like really, really off, I mean, he becomes a liability for them. And with the injury as well, it's almost like you don't want to put all your hope into just one player like KP. He has a history of injuries and things like that. So I'm glad to see that the Mavericks picked up a few people to kind of help out with Kleba, other big men that they can rely on. But if he was still there with the Clippers, I think the Clippers could have still got them, man. Because they adjusted very well to Luka's game. They really did shut him down and run him off the line. I wish that they would have moved the ball around more versus Luka just handling it majority of the time. But when you're a star and your stat line looks like that, it's almost kind of like a just a easy up out, I guess. It made it easy for a coach to just put it on him. But I think if they had approached it a little bit differently, and used Luka a little bit differently, then I think that they probably, at least at best, probably would have took him to Game 6 or Game 7.
I want to add two things to that, right? So one, the Mavs would have won Game 1 if KP wasn't ejected, and that was a horrible ejection, right? And I was just like, well, I mean, that's the whole like. Zarita made the point about the refs, blowing their whistles for the flagrants. They've been blowing their whistles crazy on these techs. It's crazy to see. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there aren't any crowds, so all they have is a sound system, and so you can literally hear the players whisper. And so they're just like, oh, did he say something? It's just like, oh my goodness, can you guys like calm down? The game should not be affected based on the whistle. It should be affected based on the level of play of the players. We don't pay to watch referees blow their whistle. And then number two, I think to add to your point, KP, I think it's moving forward. It's a huge concern. How long is he going to be? Greg Oden? Is he going to be Brandon Roy? Or Sam Bowie? Like, how long is this guy's career going to go? Because it seems like he can't stay on the court. He's amazing when he's on there, but I don't know how long this guy can stay on the court because of all these injuries, just like over and over and over and over. And then, lastly, third point. Marcus Morris, man, like I am disgusted with that guy trying to hurt and hurting Luka Doncic twice in that series. Like I like playing rough, but I don't like dirty play, and that was dirty, and it was just like one of those things. Like, dude, this guy's the future of the league, and you're like obviously trying to hurt the guy on top of the fact that he already had a sprained ankle. That left a nasty taste in my mouth. On top of the fact that I don't like the Clippers in general, so
it's funny that you bring that up, Ken, because then Morris went on Twitter to say, "I'm not that kind of player. I would never do that." And everyone responds, "Wait, is this you?" And it shows him. I think it was when he was on the Knicks, hitting the guy on the head with the basketball on purpose.
Yeah.
It's like
right.
That is you. So yes, we can say that this is intentional.
Disgusting.
All right, great points by everyone. We'll get right back into it. We'll get back into it after the break. But we do need to take a break. When we come back, we'll dissect round 2, or at least the few games that have taken place. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Do you want to earn a degree while you work? New Era University now offers Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP. ETIAP is an educational scheme that recognizes knowledge, skills, and prior learning obtained by individuals from non-formal and informal education experiences. It is implemented through deputized higher educational institutions like the New Era University that awards the appropriate degrees. Programs offered are the following: Master's Program, Masters of Arts in Education, major in Educational Management, Master's Program in Business Administration, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Political Science, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Mass Communication, Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Filipino, major in English, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with majors in Human Resources Development, Marketing Management, and Financial Management. Beneficiaries must be Filipinos who have attained at least high school level of education. The program is flexible and you don't need to attend regular classes. Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, is under the supervision of Dr. Nilo L. Rosas, the University President, and Professor Anita P. Santos, Director of ETIAP. For more information, contact the following: Cristina Moreno, 0995-138-0786, or email cvmoreno@meu.edu.ph, or Arlene Sarmiento, 0906-298-9150, or email cedctl@meu.edu.ph. What are you waiting for? Let New Era University be your partner in achieving your dreams.
Welcome back to EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Schulte Horvath. Thanks for sticking with us. Sorry about that. Before the break, our panelists broke down round 1 of the NBA playoffs. With round 2 now underway, let's dive into that. In the East, we have the Bucks versus the Heat and the Raptors versus the Celtics. Both of those series are a few games in, and there have been some surprises. The 5th-seeded Heat have yet to lose a game in these playoffs and are up 3-0 on the number 1 team in the East, the Bucks. And last night, OG Anunoby's shot was heard around the world. Zarita, I'll let you talk first. Go ahead.
Oh man, I'm like sweating just thinking about it because it was so good. I don't think you guys understand how stressed out I was watching this game, because going into game 4 down 0-3 is very different than going 2-1. And I know everyone's talking about OG's shot, but can we talk about and appreciate the pass from Kyle Lowry? It's literally on target. Over 7 million foot tall Taco Fall, who is essentially, I think, looking back, useless. And it literally landed in OG's hands, and it was just enough time for him to, set it up a little bit and take that shot. But I have no words. I think for me, it's a little bit more important than the Kawhi shot. Just with the time left, they were literally down. And then just because going into a series 0-3 is very different. And it's OG's response to it too is like, I've seen that guy in the locker room and it's just exactly who he is. It's like, whatever, it's just another game, it's just another basket. That's how he treats basketball. And it's like, this guy is going to be the next Kawhi in his demeanor, in his confidence. And the way that Fred VanVleet said that the Bucks messed up, and they messed up bad. Sorry, not the Bucks, Boston. You don't want to give that kind of team the confidence going into game 4 like that.
Is OG a fun guy, Zarita?
He's actually really funny.
EJ, we'll jump over to you. Is there a new favorite to win the East with the Bucks down 3-0 against the Heat?
Bro, man, without question, that's the Miami Heat. But first, I want to go back to what the points that Zarita was making. The pass was definitely where it needed to be. I mean, if he catches it here, he's not going to have a shot. Here. It had to be right in the shooting pocket, and it was delivered right there. Now, I don't think it's a bigger shot than Kawhi, because Kawhi doesn't hit that shot, you guys don't win your championship.
It goes overtime, though, so we would have had a chance.
Okay, that's a good point. But again, I don't think it's bigger than that shot, just because that momentum definitely carried them through to the next round. And this year, I don't really know if people are talking about the Raptors winning everything. They were definitely talking about it last year when Kawhi hit that shot. But Zolti, back to the question, new favorites come out the East, it's the Miami Heat. I mean, like we said earlier on the show, they've been on fire. They have yet to lose in the playoffs, swept the Pacers, taken care of the Bucks these first 3 games. And you can see they're hungry, being led by Jimmy Butler. And let's not forget, they're well coached by Eric Spoelstra, who's seen the top of the mountain before. They've just looked like the most composed team out of all of the teams in the East. Frankly, I'm saying this mostly because of the outcome of last night's game with Boston and Toronto. Boston looked like they had been dominating the series, and even game 3, and lost the mental toughness that they needed to close out that game. They found a way to lose. And that's an important momentum shift for Toronto. Like Zarita said, they lose game 3, they're down 0-3. That's a 0% chance of coming back, and that's backed up by NBA history. No team has come back from an 0-3 deficit. So, I mean, Toronto has been pretty much struggling against Boston aside from that miracle, and the Bucks have just looked unorganized and unable to close out games. Like today, I think they were outscored in the fourth quarter 40-16. They had that game to 13. Even worse. So, I mean, like, these guys had this game in their hands and found a way to lose. Man, new favorite definitely to come out the East is Miami Heat, who's just on fire. Looks to be the most composed, and they're just rolling on all cylinders.
All right, let's move to the West. It's the Lakers and the Rockets and the Clippers and the Nuggets. Aljamain, can Jamal Murray keep up his 50, almost 3 50-point games? He only had 12 in game 1 against the Clippers. Can he turn it around and keep that momentum going?
When you go to game 7, that really says something about yourself as a player. That means you have the grit, you have the tenacity, you have the perseverance, you got the heart to come out on top. And I think Jamal Murray has that gene in him. I think that he can carry the Nuggets to at least compete with the Clippers. That game 1, you got to give it to the Clippers because they were off. And the Nuggets were coming off of a really hard-fought battle against the Jazz. Jamal Murray is something different. His game is very well-rounded. He's a great shooter. He's a great passer. He does have a lot of support in Gary Harris coming back. You got the Joker, of course. If Jamal's, becoming the eye or the center of attention, you got Joker to come take the ball up and pass the ball as needed. But, if Jamal Murray were able to turn it back up in game 2 and for the rest of the series, the Clippers are going to have a lot of trouble, and I'll be very happy with that. So let's go Nuggets, man.
Ken, I was going to ask you about the Rockets because they're playing the Lakers. I was going to ask you if the Rockets are overrated after being brought to Game 7 by the Thunder. But they're beating your Lakers right now. What's going on, man?
Well, this is what's tough about the Rockets, right? They are just a bad matchup for the Lakers in general. I mean, with their starting center being Robert Covington, I think it's 6'8". That just makes it very difficult for a very big Lakers lineup. I mean, I have no idea why the coach has JaVale McGee on the court for more than 2 seconds. I mean, or at all. Maybe he should be the bench. He's literally useless because he doesn't have an outside jumper. The only thing that I'm hoping for versus the Rockets is 27 consecutive missed threes, maybe run it back to a couple of years back, or Game 6 versus OKC, Russell Westbrook, maybe for the entire series. It's very hard, especially without Avery Bradley, for the Lakers to clamp up. And Rondo, he's back, but he's a defensive liability, unfortunately. And the worst thing for the Lakers is if the Rockets are hitting on all cylinders outside, on the 3-point, and that's what's happening right now, especially with James Harden. He's just freely going about it. This is where they need Avery Bradley. A couple things I wanted to add. For the Raptors, right? Where is Pascal Siakam? The dude's the last 3 games versus Boston, 5 for 16, 13 points, 6 for 16, 17 points, 6 for 15, 16 points. The dude is nowhere, and the guy is supposed to be the next unicorn. I am just extremely disappointed at this guy's performance. They needed Kyle Lowry yesterday, and Fred VanVleet. I mean, his family showing up. That looks like it's finally helped him. He had 25 yesterday, and so Siakam is an X factor here for the series versus the Celtics because if OG didn't make that shot, we'd always talk about Kemba Walker's awesome, crazy assist to Theis. To Theis yesterday. That was nasty. But I mean, no one's gonna remember that now. We're all gonna talk about OG and his cool OG walk after. And then lastly, the Clippers versus Nuggets. Oh man, that was disgusting to watch. I was sick to my stomach watching these Clippers perform. A playoff PU is now playoff P again. I mean, this is one of those things that I'm not happy to see. The Nuggets need to up their perimeter defense because it's one of those things that, if they don't do that, especially with the best 2 perimeter players in the league, this is going to be a short series. The Doc Rivers is a great coach, and he is putting everyone on Jamal Murray so that he can't go off. Because once Jamal Murray goes off, that is the heart and soul of this team. It's not Jokic. Jokic will get his, but I mean he also has bad conditioning, and at the end of the day, like he doesn't have that fire that Jamal and he doesn't have that swag that Jamal does.
All right, so we'll swing it back up top. Zarita, who wins the East? Who wins the West? Who do we see in the finals?
In the finals, oh man, I have to say the Raptors against Miami. I have to, but I think Miami will come out of the.
I meant, knowing what you know today, who wins the East and who wins the West? What two teams
Miami.
out of the 8 we have left are in the finals?
Miami is going to win the East. It hurts me to say it, but they're just too good, especially when you have Jimmy Butler saying, I'm here on business, so I didn't invite family over. That's when you know you're like, this guy's on another level. And then for the West, I'm going to say either LA teams. I want to say Lakers just because I don't like the Clippers that much. But just in Pascal's defense, going back to Ken's point, you have to remember that he's been playing basketball less than, I think, 10 years. He's 26, started when he was 17. And then last year, he got all the glory because he is open enough when everyone's double teaming Kawhi. So you have to give this guy some sort of adjustment period. And so he doesn't know what to do with himself. And trust me, Raptor fans are the most frustrated with this guy. But going back to your question, it's going to be Miami against one of the LA teams.
Zarita, so did Hakeem Olajuwon and Joel Embiid. Just FYI, these guys were late.
And where's Joel? Where's Joel?
Joel's at home.
Gone fishing.
He's singing karaoke.
EJ, you already said the Heat are coming out of the East. Who you got coming out of the West?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be both LA teams coming out of their semis, but I mean, I don't think we've seen enough of round 2 to determine which of the LA teams is going to really take the crown of the West. Honestly, I mean, it's just hard to bet against playoff LeBron. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the other LA team does, but if they don't match that competitive nature that LeBron has, then it's going to be tough for anybody to beat. Honestly, Houston, they might be up right now in this game. I don't have it on right now. So, are they up right now?
They're up 2 points.
Okay, so it's a close game, but Houston did beat LA. Was one of the teams who beat the Lakers this year multiple times in the regular season, and I think more than 10 points. So, like Ken was saying, it's going to be a tough matchup. They got to get through Houston first. But again, as long as LeBron's on fire and he has that Mamba mentality, then he's going to lead the Lakers out of the West.
Aljamain, who's coming out?
The only way that the Rockets are going to be able to beat the Lakers is if they play their ball movement game. I've seen the Lakers play so many teams that have that style of play, and the Lakers always have a hard time with that. If you have AD trying to match up against guards and trying to take them off the dribble, the Lakers are going to have a hard time. AD needs to play big. AD needs to play his role as a big man and take advantage of being the biggest guy on the court against the Rockets. Otherwise, you're just another guard. You're just like Alex Caruso, and not to downplay Alex Caruso's game, but why are you playing like Alex Caruso? You should be playing like AD. AD takes the ball in. AD uses his size. AD uses his length. And if he continues to play that way, the Rockets will take him, because even if Covington is small, Covington is faster. Covington is faster in his feet, and he'll get down the court before AD. As far as defense goes, if AD continues to play his big man D, then and using his length inside, then the Lakers will be okay. But if they continue to play to the strengths of the Rockets, and that's just like any team, if you play to the weakness and strength of the other team, man, you're gonna lose for sure. It don't matter how much talent you got. If you got playoff P, if you got playoff LeBron can't do it by himself. He doesn't want to. He wants to rotate the ball because he don't want all eyes on him. because that means the defense is going to be on him, and that means that he'll have nobody to pass it to. If Danny Green don't show up, if some of these other shooters like Kyle Kuzma right now is on fire right now, if he doesn't show up, then they're gonna be a tired Lakers against whoever they face next. So,
All right, Ken, you got like 20 seconds. Say your piece, and then we gotta go to break.
Well, my dream matchup. Come on, Lakers Celtics. Let's do this. That's it.
All right, we'll have more fun in store on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere.
Mula sa libu-libong nangarap at nagpakita ng galing, iisa lang ang nagtagumpay at hinirang na TNG's first grand winner. Ngunit hindi dyan nagtatapos ang pagpapakita nila ng gilas. Sa September 5, Sabado at September 6, Linggo, alas 12 ng tanghali at alas 9 ng gabi ay muli nating samahan ng ating mga hurado na humanap ng mga Pilipinong may natatanging galing sa pagkanta at pagsayaw. Abangan ang lahat ng yan dito sa mas pinalawak at mas pinalaking talent competition on TV and online. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2. Dito lang sa Net 25. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is co-presented by Cooper, an expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Our sponsors, BDO, we find ways. JRC Industrial Sales. RS Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation, Robust Builders, Chris Rapp Enterprises, Victory Carpentry, DOP Asiatic Pest Control Services, and AUB Aspire for the Future. In partnership with New Era University ETAP, Expanded Tertiary Education, Equivalency and Accreditation Program. Embrace Cafe, we embrace differently abled persons.
Welcome back to EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Zolti Horvath, reporting from Vancouver, BC, Canada. So far, we've discussed the first and second rounds of the NBA playoffs. So now let's talk about a recent NBA head coach hiring. Two-time MVP and Canadian basketball legend Steve Nash has been hired as the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Zarita, as the resident Canadian in this bunch, what are your thoughts?
Just being Canadian, I love to see a Canadian coach in there, but as a basketball fan, I'm not a fan of this decision because I feel like player turned coach never actually pans out the way a lot of people think, despite their knowledge, despite their experience. And this one, I feel like because I was actually happy with how Jacques Vaughn was running the Brooklyn Nets, despite getting swept. I would have liked him or someone who does have experience and have proven record in the NBA to take over, especially when you have guys like KD and Kyrie. But that being said, it makes me wonder how much say KD had in this decision because they are connected when they work together on the Warriors. And I think that's the saving grace for Steve Nash is that he does have some sort of, player development, working with players, that kind of experience. But as an all-around coach, I don't know how that's going to pan out. And he has, again, he was a talented player. I didn't get to see much of him. But I just don't know what it is. And I think just his connection alone got him to where he is. And it needed to be that caliber player in order to tame a guy like KD and Kyrie.
Ken, I cut you off last block, so what are your thoughts on this?
Well, just think about it. Who's going to be who is Steve Nash going to coach? You have Kyrie Irving, you have Kevin Durant. Do both of these superstars just play basketball? No, they have a bunch of other things going on. And the perfect coach for that is Steve Nash. Steve Nash is one of those guys that doesn't just play basketball. He has a bunch of different side projects, including, businesses, sponsorships. He's a great ambassador of the game. And that's, I think, and the best part of Steve Nash too, and like this is what other teammates have said about him, is that he's able to think of high level plays. He's one of the smartest guys to ever play the game. 2-time MVP. He's able to think of these high level plays, and he's able to vocalize them in a way that everyone can understand, and that is great for a team that has 5 potential all-stars. You have 2 superstars, and then you have in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Then you have Karis LeVert, who showed up in the bubble. Spencer Dinwiddie, who didn't even show up, but that guy's amazing. And then you have Allen. What's his name?
Jared Allen.
The block party, right? I mean, that starting 5 is a 2K starting 5. Steve Nash can potentially be in a situation like one of his, old colleagues, Steve Kerr, who started off his first coaching job with the Warriors 19-2. 19 wins, 2 losses in his first 21 games. And so this can potentially be the same exact start for an Eastern Conference coach with this kind of squad. If KD shows up even like 70% of what he was, this squad is a favorite to not just win a championship, but to win multiple championships. Because I mean, I am very excited to see this. And then last thing I want to say is that this has probably had KD talking KD's fingerprints all over it, because Steve Nash was a consultant for the Warriors when KD was on there, so they've had a lot of talks before and during and in the future.
Aljamain, throw it to you.
I'd like to see Steve Nash succeed in Brooklyn. The only thing that I worry about with Brooklyn is KD and Kyrie working together. Both just have a history, and to see their chemistry, I would really have to see them play together as a unit under Steve Nash to really, determine if this team can perform the way they do. You would expect on paper. Looking at it on paper is completely different when you have the dynamics of Steve Nash's coaching as well as Kyrie's, I don't even know what you call it, man, out of this world mentality, and KD's, burner account goes. When you have somebody who does stuff like that, I can't judge KD, but man, when you have,
you're judging KD.
I can't, but I will anyway. But you have, it's kind of toxic, and when you have that kind of toxicity in a team, it can kind of break it down. So, there's a lot that's going to be riding on Steve Nash's shoulders to really step up as a head coach. I really do hope that Kyrie and KD have grown in this off season for them. KD definitely does have a championship gene in him. He performs very well. But the one thing that I knock KD for is his mentality. He's shown weaknesses in his mental game, because anything you say to him, he'll bite. You start teasing him, he'll bite, and he'll start getting upset, and maybe it'll throw his game off, maybe it won't. But maybe the injury will change his mentality, and it's gotten him a little bit stronger. But I really want Steve Nash to succeed as a coach there, because the Nets have a lot of talent, and I really do hope that it brings the East up, though.
All right, EJ, what are your thoughts? This went from a Steve Nash topic to, bunk on KD.
Well, that's the thing. We're talking about basketball, right? It doesn't. Personalities are personalities, but just like the Utah Jazz have shown, even if 2 players don't like each other, it depends on how they perform on the court. We know that Kyrie and Kevin Durant, they're good friends. So, and they've played on teams before with USA Basketball. So, I mean, yes, they're playing with a whole bunch of stars, but again, all of those stars are ball dominant players. So they have. I mean, we know Kevin Durant is an unselfish basketball player. That's why he fit right into the Golden State Warriors. I don't think there's going to be any difficulty meshing these two guys together. And honestly, I'm surprised though that the Nets did decide to go with Steve Nash because he has zero coaching experience. Kevin Durant definitely had his hands all over this decision. Again, with the relationship that they had in Golden State, and Steve Nash. When we talk about high basketball IQ, Steve Nash is in that discussion with all the players in history. So, I mean, definitely something for Kyrie to be able to learn at the point guard position, but he's already a top dog. So, honestly, it doesn't matter what coach they decided. These guys are going to win 50 games in their sleep. Like Ken said, the two stars alone are going to be able to win you games. Then you pair that with Spencer Dinwiddie, Cyrus LeVert, and Jarrett Allen. I mean, they're going to get 50-plus wins in their sleep. That's no debate. So I think the coach, whoever they decided to go with, and in this case they decided Steve Nash, they're going to reap the benefits of having a deep arsenal and will automatically inherit a winning season.
All right, great stuff from everyone. As always, lastly, before we end the show, it would not be right ending the show without asking the question of the show, which we do every week. So this week, I'm going to ask our panel, which buzzer beater or last-second play, doesn't have to be basketball, will you remember forever? Aljamain, let's start with you.
The most memorable buzzer beater would have to be Derek Fisher's game-winning shot against the San Antonio Spurs. I remember being at a house, and I was pretty much the only Laker fan there, and they only had a few, less than a second to get the shot off. So they're all gloating, oh, Spurs, like, yeah, right, you're not even a Spurs fan, yeah, whatever. Laker haters, there's just, they love to gang up on us, stuff like that.
Agreed.
I was the only one like this. They were already celebrating it. Yeah. And I was just like, oh. So the ball gets tossed up to Derek Fisher. Derek Fisher is already in his shooting motion, catches the ball, and hits the winning bucket. And I was just like, oh, oh my God, are you serious? Are you serious? So, I was actually there watching it on TV with some friends and stuff like that. So in your face, I'll always remember that. I'll never forget it, and I'll never forget it in your face.
All right, Ken, you're up. What's your buzzer beater?
All right, the great thing about being a Laker fan is that we have many, right? So I originally wanted 0.4, and I also talked about Horry a few years back. But, all right, so it's April 2006, Lakers versus Suns at the Staples Center series. 2-1, Lakers up. Game 4, OT, with the Lakers down 97-98. 5 seconds left. Jump ball between Luke Walton and Steve Nash. Luke Walton wins a tip to Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant dribbles it down to the elbow, pull up, fadeaway three, game winner. Lakers eventually lose that series, but that's a whole different story.
EJ, what about you?
Oh, okay. So for me, I was definitely going to say the Derek Fisher, but that was just so memorable for me. But I'll go a different route. Growing up in the DMV, I grew up to love the Washington Wizards, and in 2005 is a year that I'll always remember. This was the season that the big three in DC, Gilbert Arenas, Antoine Jameson, and Caron Butler, the best scoring big three in the league. Man, I was so proud of that statistic. Anyway, we faced the Bulls. We made it to the playoffs for the very first time in a really long time. We faced the Bulls in round 1. We go down 0-2 in the series. But they come back, and in Game 6, Gilbert Arenas put the Bulls away by a pure nothing-but-net jumper from the left elbow to move on to the second round. I remember that next day, I saw the newspaper, and I kept that with me. I don't know where it is now, but I'll always remember that shot.
All right, Zarita, we'll finish off with you.
Kawhi. That's all.
Four bounces.
Nice and simple. All right, that's all we have for this week's edition of EBC Sports International. On behalf of everyone on our panel, we thank you for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week. Make sure you visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH to join the conversation. For Eagle News, I'm Zolti Horvath. We live in interesting times.